So my career as an agent got off to arguably a pretty successful start. But for every wonderful deal uniting the perfect player with their perfect club, there's a bebe to Manchester United waiting in the wings. Hopefully not today. Meet Fabio Carvalho. He's 24 years old and has been at Liverpool for 4.5 years now since his move from Fulham. But in that time, he's managed only 21 league appearances for the club, and only 2 of those have been starts. He's never been able to prove his worth, even with a loan move, and despite things looking up for him in 2024, his first-team football opportunities have dried up almost completely. He has a massive contract wage-wise and still has 18 months remaining on it, but if he ever dreams of having a truly fulfilling and noteworthy footballing career, he's gonna need game time, and that is where we step in. On to player 2, Ryan Gravenberch. He's also 24 years old. Ignore the Ajax kit in the thumbnail. That was a purely aesthetic choice. Didn't want 2 players wearing the same kit, and I couldn't find a good one of him in the away kit. He too is 4.5 years into his tenure at current club Bayern Munich after a nearly £17 million move from Ajax. A wonder kid from past and, honestly, still current FMs who can definitely still reach those levels of greatness. But he has made just 32 league appearances for Bayern during this period, with only 5 of them being from the start. And much like Carvalho, he too hasn't really been given an opportunity to show what he can do even out on loan. Most of the football that he has played has been with Bayern's second side in the 3rd tier of German football, where he has impressed to the surprise of absolutely no one. Despite his lack of game time, last April he and his agent did agree to a £170,000 a week contract, which again is financially astonishing, but they wouldn't be bringing me in as their agent if all they were interested in is money. What they need is game time, and at this absolutely crucial juncture in their careers, that's what I'm hoping today we're going to provide for them, because today we're going to be attempting to find the perfect moves for both of these players, and once those moves have been made, we are going to follow the rest of their careers with and without the moves to decide whether they were better sticking with their original agent or joining the ranks of, well, me. I have no idea anymore. If you've seen the first video of this type that I made a couple of weeks ago, then you'll already know the drill. But if not, I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out too. But don't worry, it's not required reading or watching. You'll pick it up pretty quickly. And for the next one of these, should you guys want another one, I'm planning a twist where I'm actually competing to find moves against a third party. Some of you might already know what that third party is. But yeah, let me know. I'll be choosing their moves with a heavy emphasis, of course, on game time, but still taking into account realism, the situation the clubs are in, the finances, the tactical setups, any language barrier issues, past histories of the players, all that good stuff. So let's start with Fabio Carvalho. He's transfer listed by Liverpool and set to surplus to requirements, listed at £11.75 million, which honestly, no matter who picks him up, is likely to be an extremely solid piece of business. And technically, should he stick around at Liverpool and make another 4 league appearances for the club, he would be entitled to a wage bump that would put him on £190,000 a week, which is truly astonishing. I can't believe the club were suckered into signing this contract. But the downside for him is they're going to be extremely reluctant to give him any of those appearances, because why on earth would they want to pay that extra kind of money for a player that they're not using very often? He'll obviously need to take a reasonable sized pay cut in order to join a team that now matches his level, and as his agent, I will be advising him accordingly. I've picked out 3 potential moves for Fabio, and this time we're going to get through some of the ones that I didn't greenlight a little bit quicker so we don't get bogged down. First up, Fulham. The almost too obvious destination for him, given it is the club that he started his professional career with in England. They currently sit 10th in the league and are on a pretty good run at the moment. The fee and the wages would be absolutely no issue for the Cottagers at this point. The main problem is that he just doesn't fit their tactical style and would mostly get farmed out wide where there's just better players. Next, I looked to his nation of birth. Now, the big 3 have enormous quality in many positions, and he would simply be drowned out in his current state, so they were basically off the cards immediately. But then I thought about Braga. He wouldn't even be close to their record signing, an honour which dubiously goes to, of all people, Dominic Solanke, who they picked up for 22 million quid. But wages would be much more of an issue given that their current top earner is on 43k a week, so it'd be an enormous wage cut to join them. They did come second in the league last year, which is a huge achievement, and currently sit second this season as well, so they're clearly building something awesome here. Much like Fulham, it would still be a problem of tactics. They play a 4-4-2 system with 2 of arguably their very best players occupying those 2 central midfield roles. Game time would be just sparse, I suspect. So in the end, I decided to look a little bit out of his comfort zone, and that is where we ended up with Real Betis. They came 7th in the Liga last season, and that allowed them to qualify for the Europa League. Not entirely sure how, but it did. And this season they currently sit 9th, but they're very much within touching distance of the European hunt. The top earner is currently on £93,000 a week, so the wage issue here should be an absolute breeze, as Carvalho would slip in way below that. And neither should the transfer fee, given that they sold Guido Rodriguez to Inter Milan for £42.5 million not that long ago. He'd be one of the better players at the club, which means that he would find space in the team and room to improve. Now, his main rival for position is Rodri, who is a very solid player and a homegrown talent at Betis. But Carvalho does have a few years of junior to him, and in theory does seem to have a higher potential ceiling, and they're fairly evenly matched as far as their actual current ability at this point. I think Carvalho just needs that game time, and he'll certainly, hopefully, get it, as Betis play a lovely 4-2-3-1 under World Cup winning manager Lionel Scaloni, so a lot of pedigree there. This feels like the perfect move for me to kickstart his career. There is that little thought, though, in the back of my mind that we could have a similar situation to that which we had with Yildiz and Franco. My hope is that that won't be the case and that Fabio will get the football that he needs to stay here, but that will still be very much up for debate, I would say. So just like last time, I'm going to negotiate the deal as the manager of Real Betis, back out and then mimic the deal with the editor to cause no turbulence to the club. But let's get this man a contract. He actually wants 79k, which is still quite a lot compared to what we were expecting, but I think we can still bring that down a little bit. Minimum release clause of 43 million. So he's actually gone for that. Wasn't expecting that. The goal bonus is quite large. I've managed to bump the release clause up a little bit. I've dropped his base wage down and it's got an international appearance cap in it. 4-year deal, £66,000 a week, so half what he's earning at Liverpool. As a regular starter too, I think he get a lot of game time. Excited to see how this progresses. We'll check back in with Fabio in a bit, but now over to Mr. Ryan Gravenberch. The Ryan here is actually listed for £8.5 million, which, looking at his attributes and the potential ceiling that we know he has, he is going to be an absolute bargain for any side who gets the pleasure of working with him. But much like Carvalho, I do expect him to take a relatively large pay cut in order to get that football, because no club in their right mind is paying him 200 grand a week when he can't actually get a game at Bayern Munich at the moment. He's going to have to drop the wages slightly. I'd really like to find him a move that's going to allow him to get back into contention for the Dutch national team as well. That's a good sort of sign of things to come, hopefully, as the 10 caps that he does have, I believe he got all of those before moving to Bayern, or certainly hasn't achieved any of them during the course of this save. That's a big goal for him, I suspect. Again, we have 3 potential moves for him to ensure that he gets the game time he needs and a nice soft landing. He does speak, obviously, Dutch and German, but also good English, so that does open up a lot of potential moves for this young man. I did look at a couple of the other German side, since I figured staying in this league would be a good way of him rejuvenating himself and proving that he can do it in Germany. But the couple of clubs that did sort of fit him as far as being able to slot into their sides, mostly Stuttgart and Eintracht Frankfurt, unfortunately they play systems that don't suit his style, so that was kind of them out almost immediately. Celta Vigo, currently sitting 6th in La Liga and well in the hunt for the European places, but they aren't super loaded with cash, so I think they'd struggle even to afford the £8.5 million fee to bring him to the club currently. But their top earner is on £85,000 a week, so they might be able to stretch a little bit to bring in someone of the quality of Gravenberch that could take their entire team to the next level. They do play a 4-4-2, so he would at least get to play in his preferred role of a central midfielder. However, he would face stiff competition initially from Beltran and Zukovsky. I just felt there were better options. Ajax. It'd be truly silly not to consider them at this point. His first club is the club he enjoyed all the early success in his career with and what earned him that move to Germany. He would probably end up being the top earner at the club as well. They have the finances, though. He'd find space in their midfield and would most likely replace Daley Blind in one of the DM roles, but that is one of the downsides, of course, in that he wouldn't be playing in his preferred position. So in the end, I decided that this move, again, was perhaps a little bit too obvious for him, and that perhaps he'd like to test himself on the very biggest stage to hopefully rejuvenate his career and find that massive move when he's more ready for it. So who do we go for? Fulham. Pull of that Premier League money, eh? Hear me out. Hear me out. There is a reason here. In fairness, this is the first time I've actually chosen a Premier League side as the destination for one of the players in these videos. Fulham sit 10th in the Premier League under Brendan Rodgers and are on a great run under their new manager. He's only been at the club for like 2 months anyway, and they've been really good under him. They're looking up rather than down. They're 14 points above the drop zone, only 7 points off those European places. I looked at some other sides further up the Premier League, but he wasn't going to get the game time that he needed initially, and other clubs around Fulham's level weren't playing systems that would have suited him. It's not just because I'm a Fulham fan. I promise this is completely unbiased. Fulham are loaded, so the wages and the transfer fee would be an absolute breeze, although he probably would end up being their top earner, if not one of the top earners. He'd be guaranteed playing time from the very beginning of his career at the club, because the players that he'd be in competition with are arguably the weakest point of Fulham's side, particularly 4.5 years into the save, where he'd be up against mostly Harrison Reed and Andreas Pereira for those 2 CM roles, and were he to have to cover Joao Polina during one of his many suspensions this season, I'm sure he'd be able to fit in there too. So lots of opportunities for game time against players that I think he's better than. Maybe not Polina. No one's better than Polina. He gets a lot of football, good wage, gets to play in a top league in a club that seems to be building something at the moment, and if nothing else, it's just a huge showcase, because if he can play well for them, it's almost certain to earn him an enormous move to a big side, whereas this time, he'll actually be ready to take the mantle. But let's get this deal done. Wants 105 grand straight away. We can bring that down a bit. Wow, they want 105 no matter what. He has a number in his head and it ain't budging at all, is it? Okay, he would. We found his wiggle room. It's still a lot of money for a club like Fulham, and he would be the highest paid player, but I just think that for £8.5 million, the sale value on him would be absolutely extraordinarily large, honestly. He will get a work permit, so that's all good. It's still a lot of money, though. Okay, so there's Fabio's deal in 66k a week. All of this stuff is good. The only things that you can't touch are things like the loyalty bonus, stuff like that. So I've tried to mimic it as best I can. I think they're actually paying a bit more here. And that should cover us on the Gravenberch one as well. 100k a week. All this stuff in there as well. A loyalty bonus is a bit less, so it kind of balances out with the other two, but there's not much I can do about that. So that's both of them set at their new clubs. This should be very, very interesting indeed. So now that their moves are complete, we're going to go 5 and then 10 years into the futures for each of these players, and then a little bit further after that maybe, to see how they get on in the rest of their careers with and without the move. I'm not going to make any predictions this time around because that's boring. Let's just get jumping straight into the future, shall we? So it's a new dawn, a new day. I'm feeling futuristic and all that jazz. Didn't manage to pull off the old keeping the same clothes on this time around. That was a bit too much for a stretch, even for me. Okay, here we go. What we got? He's still at Real Betis. That, I might have done a good 194 appearances for Real Betis over the... okay, I'm feeling immediately a lot better about this. Now, I'm still not sure if he's actually become like the flourishing blossom, perhaps. As you'll see, no Portugal caps, but given that his max PA is like mid 150s, I do wonder if perhaps there was just, you know, it's Portugal, stacked ass team, particularly in these types of positions. Maybe he was unlikely to ever get that cap, but it does look, though, from what I can tell immediately, as though he has had one hell of a career so far at Real Betis, 194 league appearances as well. So after his big move, he did play 16 times that first season and 12 starts from January onwards. So we did make the right move this time. It wasn't the Yildiz situation, and since then, strength to strength, quite frankly. 30 starts the next year, 8 goals, a couple of assists in there too. Same the next year. In fact, he played in every single La Liga match for Real Betis that year. The same return, though, of 8 goals and 2 assists. Slightly worse performance overall. Next year, actually, probably one of his better years for them. 7 goals and 6 assists. Really more rounded that year. 36 starts. And then, weirdly, 3 goals and 5 assists, but a 7.04 rating. He has got a new contract. Yes, he does, because that would have been, weirdly, the year after we signed him for them, ironically. But he has got, like, a nice long contract there. That was a 5-year deal he signed with an optional extension as well. Doesn't appear so. Any awards? A couple of Team of the Weeks in Spain there. And a couple of, obviously, their best 11s, but no, like, actual awards with Betis. Now we're going to go to 2037 with Fab to see if he's still at Real Betis. He'll be like 34 by then, so I suspect that he will have moved. In fact, I think, if I had to predict, I think he's moved twice. I reckon he moves to the Premier League this summer, but then has already moved back to somewhere else by the time we see him again. So let's go find out. Moment of truth, friends. Fabio Carvalho. Watch him have already retired or something. Carvalho. I can't even type in Carvalho. It doesn't work like that. Benfica. Oh, that I like. Oh dear, what the hell happened here? Okay, this is not exactly how I was expecting things to go. So he is at Benfica at 34 years old, the club that he actually started his career with, technically. You won't see it here, but he actually was a youth player at Benfica back in the day. But he has, I mean, he's retiring and asked to leave. Wow, he's just not having it at all, is he? 34, bang, he's gone. Okay, right, well, let's just see how this breaks down, because it looks like he didn't leave that summer from Betis. And then he, I mean, look at the, oh my goodness me. 11 goals, 0 assists that season. But look at the following season. That season there, 8 goals and 10 assists in La Liga. Comfortably the best season of his career for them. Although the following season as well with 5 goals and 10 assists. God damn, when he reached like 30 or 31, he was absolutely killing it for Betis. I do wonder if that's maybe them having some success as well, but still. And then eventually he just kind of let his contract elapse and moved to Inter on a free transfer. Unfortunately, just the one start for Inter in Serie A that season. Did score a goal, but looks like he wasn't really getting a lot, and actually was then loaned to Benfica for the following season. Didn't get a lot of starts there too, but did at least score a couple of goals for his boyhood club, I suppose, which is kind of nice. And then that move was then made permanent last season, in fact. Despite his lack of Portugal caps, which I don't believe he got any, no, he's still a very solid career. Like, he got a really nice time at Real Betis. We'll have a look if he won anything in a second. Got to play for Inter and got to play and score for his boyhood club to finish off his career there. AI Agent is going to struggle to do better from that. That makes me feel a lot more confident. It was the Carvalho one that I was really worried about, honestly. I feel like we've done all right with Gravenberch, but it was Fab I was concerned about. Okay, let's just see if he's won anything. Wow, he won nothing at Betis, but that doesn't mean he didn't do well with them. He just may not have won anything specifically. Won the Coca-Cola Super Cup with Inter, sort of, and then, well, not sort of, he did win it. Did technically win the league with Benfica. In fact, back-to-back league titles with Benfica, despite not even playing that much. I still think that's a nice way to cap off his career, but he's retiring, so I suspect that we won't be seeing any more of Fab in this one. It looks like 34 and out. No Portugal caps in the end for him. Right, now we're going to go back 5 years again to take a little look at Ryan Gravenberch, the one I'm more confident about, truth be told. Now, obviously, it's nice to see how these guys get on in the careers with the moves that we've allowed them to make. However, I think the most fun is the comparison part towards the end. That's where I really think that that's what I get really excited for. But let's go find Ryan Gravenberch. Now, my guess is he's not at Fulham still. I'd be almost amazed if he's still at Fulham. Oh my God, he is! Well, I think... What does that mean? He's played a lot for Fulham. No more caps for the Dutch national team, though. I mean, he is a cracking player. Let's make that very clear. 136 games for Fulham in that time. It feels like he hasn't played as much as I was expecting. So straight away, He started the next 12 matches for them, didn't really do a lot, but then did improve the next... Oh, wow. I can only assume Fulham must have signed someone that summer because he then made 1 appearance from the start in the next season. 23 substitute appearances for him. Following year, 3 starts, 18 sub appearances. Following year, 10 starts, a bit better. And finally, as of that season there, got 13 starts and was starting to get some... And then, well, he actually started 29 games. He spent way too long having to work his way into this Fulham team. That surprises me greatly. Fulham did spend 121 million during that summer. So, but it does seem with the signings of O'Donnell and Torreira especially, that they might well have... Yeah. Honestly, if I was still his agents, I'd probably be trying to get him another move here because I'm a little bit concerned about this one being a bit of a flop. Now, that does still depend on what happens in the other one, of course, but I feel like if there's anyone that could be a bit of a flop, potentially, it might well be this one. Still a lot of games, still playing in the Premier League on 100 grand a week, so we can't really ignore that, but... Honestly, I expect him to come into Fulham, play every single game practically for them for like 2 or 3 seasons, maybe only 2 seasons, and earn that big move, but it just hasn't happened. Right, let's see if he pulls this one around in 5 years' time. If I had to guess, though, I reckon he might not even be playing in 5 years' time. He is at Marseille. Okay, that's good. Just as well, actually, because I think I forgot to keep history after retirement on these players. And there he... Man did it. Man somehow, I don't know how, managed to get 2 more Dutch caps. Probably after leaving Fulham, let's be honest. But he did get 2 more Dutch caps, and he managed to score a goal. And I feel like that's a tick. It's just about a tick, admittedly. But he did get back in the squad, so he must have gone through a good spell. That surprises me, actually. So after that really solid season of playing for Fulham, he then went back out of the side again. They just dropped him straight back out of the team again. I can't believe they did this to my boy. And then sort of got his way back in again. And that was enough, despite all of that, to earn him a £15.5 million move to Marseille. And by then, he must have been like 32, 33 years old. 33 starts for Marseille in League 5 goals, 7 assists, just flourishing in the French league straight off the bat. 6 goals the following season as well. This year, though, it looks like he's just completely gone out of the side. But at least he did get back in the Dutch team. I'll be curious to know when he did that. So yes, it was during this season, his absolute peak season. I've just gone back to have a little look. When he was at Marseille and having an absolute blast of a time during his first year at the club, that was when he got those international call-ups. We can't actually see what games they were. I suppose we could find out, potentially. Wait, I found the cap. It was in November 2033. That's his goal. So it was in November 2033, and for some reason, that's been credited as part of the 2034-35 season. I don't know if that's because of international stuff, crossover or whatever, but that has to be the goal, because he's only got 1 more goal for his country since the start of the save, and that was it. Very, very bizarre indeed, but the conundrum is fixed. That was way unnecessary, but I hate mysteries like that. So there you go. Yes, he did in fact get a proper goal for the Netherlands. It was just not in the season that it says it was. So here he is. He's had his 1 season at FC Groningen, and he has now chosen to retire at the age of 36. He did look like he's played a few games for them at the very least. So yeah, 20 games so far. Well, only 2 starts in the Eredivisie for them, and it hasn't really had a lot to do. Did get an assist for them, I suppose. I think of the 2 players anyway, Fabio has probably performed better. I feel like Gravenberch just didn't get enough football for a long period of time at Fulham and just didn't get enough chances in the first team, whereas Fabio did. I was really not expecting that, if I'm honest. Easily the best spell of his career, these 2 years at Marseille, which forced himself back into the first team, except he didn't because he was at Fulham when that happened. What on earth? Actually, they won a Europa League with him at the club. I think he's a Europa League winner during probably, well, maybe not his best season for them, but that's still a nice achievement for him to actually have won some silverware as a player. So that does count. That gives us a little chance at maybe beating the AI. Maybe, if he hasn't won anything, but I'm still unsure. Right, now we move. So we're now in 2037, of course, with the original database without the Sims happening in it. So we're going to go, of course, to Fabio first to see if he can match his career at Betis. Fabio Carvalho. Come on. Fabio Carvalho. Oh, God. Watch that been the right move all along. All right, let's have a little look. How did this one go? Okay. Fascinating. So he did stay at Liverpool a little bit longer. Not too much longer. He got caps for Portugal. Man got caps for Portugal. I think I might have oofed. Can't argue with the caps for Portugal. What happened here, then? He stayed at Liverpool an extra season. Didn't play for them for 2 full years. And then went on a free transfer to Rangers in the Premiership in Scotland and absolutely killed it. 15 goals, 5 assists, and then 16 goals and 10 assists in the Scottish Premiership. That is insane numbers. I wonder if he won anything with Rangers. We'll come back on that in a minute. And then those excellent seasons, clearly at the start of this year, Milan went, right, we want you. £26 million to move to Milan, and he's absolutely flourished in their first team. Huge amounts of game time, 7 goals and 11 assists in Serie A in his first season. Impossible to argue. And then, oh God, it gets worse. It almost feels like Fulham signed him to replace Ryan Gravenberch, except of course wrong universe, but still, another great year. Then obviously he got off to not a slow start. They would have signed him very early in the window. Fulham flew in with a £35 million bid, so already he's been transferred just over the course of this for, what's that, £51 million if you exclude the original Liverpool fee, and he's got caps for Portugal as well. 13 caps for them. Not a huge number, but it's a lot more than 0. So it turns out being an agent is a lot harder than it looks. I was so confident. And let's be honest, he's almost certainly won some stuff at Rangers or Milan. For all we know, he's won some stuff at Fulham too. Let's just see how we've gone here. Have a look at his milestones then. This is going to be terrifying, isn't it? Competitions. Oh, good God. Oh, God. I have to scroll. When you have to scroll, you know it's gone wrong. So, yes, he won the Premier Sports Cup with Rangers. He won the Premiership with Rangers. Him being in that absolute godlike season, won the Premiership with them. Then he got his first cap at 28. Then he won the Coppa Italia and Serie A in the same season. Champions League runner-up with Milan. Won the Coppa Italia for a second consecutive season. Scored his first international goal at 30. Won the Super Cup as well. Third in the FIFA World Club. Oh, he won the FA Cup with Fulham. Are you serious? I thought, he's moved to Fulham now. He's unlikely to win anything. Nope. Oh, and the Carabao Cup. What the hell happened to Fulham? He's won the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. They were in the... Oh, my Lord. The first season that he joins them, they come 4th in the Premier League with him leading them into the Champions League, for crying out loud. 2 major trophies at Fulham and a Champions League appearance. Yep. Nope. I mean, obviously you guys decide. I think we just got absolutely murked by the AI agent there. That is remarkable. And he is now retiring as of this season, but it looks like Fulham sold him. Did they sell him for money? Oh my days. Oh wait, no. He was on loan at Marseille. Okay, so he's been on loan at Marseille from Fulham. Yeah, that last season there, he just didn't play anywhere near as much. Clearly wanted the loan move. Went to Marseille on loan. Seems to be a common theme these days. And actually did okay there, to be honest. Really good rating for them in Ligue 1. Solid, but I think he's now decided, as you can see there, to hang his boots up at the end of this season at the age of 35. Don't blame him. What an insane career he's had. 2 domestic trophies in England, Champions League with Fulham, multiple trophies and titles in both Scotland and in Italy, international call-ups, international goals. I mean, I've just lost, haven't I? I've just lost. Right, okay, that's enough of that. I'm getting sad. Let's go to Ryan Gravenberch. Although, if this is a sign of things to come in the future, then, hey, I guess, come on, you whites. Back in 2037. Time to see if Gravenberch is going to disappoint me too. I have a horrible feeling we're about to go 0-2 here. Right, Gravenberch. Norwich City. Okay, this could mean all sorts of things, to be fair. Okay, right, let's have a look at Norwich City then, shall we? No more caps for the Netherlands. I'm just saying. I just wonder if it was almost too late for Gravenberch, even at the age he was at, if he maybe needed to move a year earlier. But he has been playing. Let's see how this went. I'm guessing it was a free transfer from Bayern, right? We left on a free transfer from Bayern and went to Brentford in the he went to a championship club. You know, we at least got him to move to a Premier League side with presumably better wages and also a transfer fee, which means that he stayed at Bayern an extra... Oh my God, he was there for another few years. No appearances. No start, I should stress. Didn't make a single start for them over the next 3 years. That's mental. Finally got a free transfer to Brentford and absolutely killed it in the championship, honestly. 7 goals for them. Solid year. The next year, even better. 9 goals, presumably as part of a promotion challenge, which got them back into the Premier League. Then, you know what? Still, 5 goals is a solid time of it in the Premier League for them, for Brentford. It's certainly solid. Did play a lot of games for them, at least. He was playing matches for them in the Premier League. Don't know what his wages were like at this point. He was playing fully for them, and they just released him, and he went to Leicester on a free. Didn't start as many games for Leicester as he might have liked there. Only 15 that season. Scored a couple of goals, and then the next year, well, didn't get a chance to, really, as Norwich came in the championship with his first transfer fee since his move from Ajax of 400 grand to Norwich. And unfortunately, this season for Norwich, he started just 11 matches for them in the championship, contributing a little bit here and there. Not retiring at the end of the season, it looks like. He does still have another 2 years, amazingly, left on his contract at Norwich. No more Dutch call-ups. This is a really, really tough one. Let's just check his milestones. Okay, so the only thing he's won is promotion. That implies 2nd place, presumably. He did get some international caps with the move that we made for him, but only 2. And he didn't play a lot for Fulham in the Premier League, whereas at least with Brentford, we've got this West London thing going on. He did at least play, even though he had to drop down into the Champions League and Championship to do it, and then came up with them. Didn't get any football for like the next 3 years at Bayern either. So, I honestly don't know. He's finished it in Norwich City's under-23s. Remarkably disappointing. It appears that he's not even really been able to get into their... Yeah, like over the last season, he's played 3 appearances off the bench for them in the entire season. And as a result, he's went, nope, none of that. I don't know. That's going to very much be one for you guys to decide, because that is the end of his career right there. No more caps, no more nothing there. He didn't win anything with Norwich. They're still in the championship, as far as I can tell. It seems unlikely. Unless, you know, they just did it without him, I suppose. But he got... Wow. That's a way to finish. Relegation from English under-21 Premier. What a way to finish your career. One of the things I've loved about doing these 2 videos so far is just how every time you think it's like kind of set in stone that this is the thing, it just goes, no, we're about to mess with your brain. If you enjoyed this, drop a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.